There's a light in the sky, rising in the air. There's a feeling so strong. It's time to light the fire, like a bright shining light. Getting more out of life, sharing time with friends, feeling so strong.
Hello and welcome to the House of Wellness. I'm Luke Darcy and it's fantastic to be alongside Jo Stanley as always. Welcome, Jo.
Oh, Darcy, I love doing this with you every week. It's an absolute joy. And this week, I've been deliberately taking time to notice the little things, especially in nature. I have been watching some of Sir David Attenborough's amazing Planet documentary, so it could have something to do with that. They are so beautiful.
They're amazing, aren't they? And I saw him recently, Jo, saying that he believes the pandemic has changed how people view the planet for the better. Being stuck at home has given us all a great appreciation of the natural world.
But being home more has also given me time to look at my household waste and ways to reduce it. So, Darth, let me ask you, are you a scruncher?
A what?
By that I mean, do you scrunch up your soft plastics?
Well, I thought you were going somewhere else there for a minute. So you mean the things like bread and pasta bags, biscuit packets and toilet paper packaging? I'm never sure if that stuff goes into the regular recycling bin, Jo.
Well, it can't go in your yellow bin because it clogs up the machinery used in curbside recycling. Plus, you've got to think about where it could end up, like in our waterways or landfill. But the good news is that any soft plastic that can be scrunched up can be recycled in special bins at major supermarkets. Not so great news is that only 47% of people know about that.
Yeah, and other recyclable soft plastics are pet food bags, bubble wrap, even the silver line chip and chocolate wrappers, Jo.
I don't know, I'm familiar with those, but yeah, it just has to be dry and clean, and incredibly, it can be used to make plastic furniture, bollards, fence posts, garden edging, and even new roads. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is, and we're definitely getting better at recycling and reducing our use of plastics. I've been blown away by how much better our house is with the council taking care of the food waste.
Oh, yes.
That has been a great change in our house as well. But in terms of moving forward with the times, one industry is seriously lagging behind, Jo. That's the construction industry. The process of making concrete basically hasn't changed in centuries.
As populations grow, the demand for concrete rises. So one South Australia concreting family is making it their mission to drag the building sector out of the Stone Age and into a more sustainable future.
We know that concrete is impacting the environment. We know that cement production is impacting the environment. Can we do without it? Probably not. But can we change it? Yes, we can.
After working in Adelaide's construction industry for 30 years, in 2013, Stephen Searley started up a family business with his daughter Abby and wife Yvonne, with a goal of breaking the mould.
Dad sort of came to the family with this crazy innovation. Mum and I thought he had literally lost the plot and he wanted to put the life savings into this idea that we'd never understood because I didn't know concrete.
Stephen's idea was to fundamentally change the way that concrete is made by replacing coarse aggregate, the stones excavated from quarries to give concrete its strength, with recycled plastic.
So what we're looking at here is if you ever go shopping and you see all of the plastic bottles, bottle caps and so forth, anything that's polypropylene will go through a process where it gets recycled and then pelletised, and this is the pellets. If we look back over the last 30, 40 years, they've been trying to get plastics into concrete and it affects the properties of the concrete. It decreases the strength. There's no real benefit from having it in there because of its lack of adhesion.
To solve this problem, Stephen came up with the creative solution of melting down the plastic pellets and reshaping them into specially designed moulds called atoms. The mixture created using these atoms is called toberite, which is not only stronger than conventional concrete, it's also lighter, more durable and more efficient.
The atoms create a mechanical anchorage, so what we're seeing is they're stabilising quite quickly.
And what's more, Stephen's daughter Abby now knows a lot more about concrete.
You know, the conventional way of making concrete at the moment, you've got your excavation of the stone, which is having a massive impact on our environment, and at the same time, plastic's getting produced and essentially going into that hole that's been excavated from stone is how I kind of see it. The toberite way is we're decreasing, if not eliminating, the need for excavation of stone altogether. And with that plastic production, instead of going to landfill, it's going into building our cities.
Amazingly, the invention of toberite marks the first major change to the concrete making process in over 2,000 years. So winning over clients has been hard work.
The concrete industry is a tough industry to change. What they're working with at the moment is what they know. Nobody can believe that there can be an alternative with something that's like a waste product.
It's kind of like bashing your head against a brick wall, a concrete wall maybe. We just weren't really getting any real traction with any area, and you just, as a startup company, it's all you really have is to try and create those opportunities for yourself and create those relationships with people.
The family's big break came last year when the Marion Council in Adelaide's southwestern suburbs took a gamble on the new material.
Well, it's definitely one of the council values to be more environmentally friendly. So using these little toberite atoms in our cement, that is really very useful. Basically, we thought we'd give it a trial on driveways and curbing, gutters, that sort of thing, because it's a smaller quantity. But if it all works out well, then we can move on to bigger items like traffic islands, roundabouts and that sort of thing. Those things require a lot more concrete.
Since Marion Council came on board, several other South Australian councils have started working with the product. And the Seeley family are hoping their sustainable solution will take hold.
This is a massive opportunity for not just Australia, but the rest of the globe to sit up and take notice. Plastics are going into landfill as we speak. Millions and millions of tonnes. This is something that future generations are going to have to deal with. And we need to be responsible. We need the action plan, and I think our product is a start.
Well, it's encouraging to see stories like that, Joe, especially when only about 10% of the 3.5 million tonnes of plastic waste we produce each year is actually recycled.
And it's a timely message too, Darc, as it's Plastic-Free July. So join the global movement that helps millions of people to be part of the solution to plastic pollution. And, just by refusing single-use plastic for a month might just help you find alternatives that can become new habits forever.
Up next, the author of the global bestseller Raising Boys is on a new mission to make us all fully human. I chat to Steve Biddulph right after this on the House of Wellness. Welcome back, Joe. I look back at my older brother and I. We must have given my mum so much grief. We used to fight. We used to do ridiculous things. And now having three sons of my own, I know firsthand how challenging it can be raising boys. There is a certain kind of energy in a house like yours that I must say, I only have one child and she's very, very placid. So it's a very different house that we have. Boys are just loose. They don't see trouble in the things that they do and you're on edge a lot of the time. But it's an awesome experience as well when you can go back to, growing up yourself, I suppose. Yeah, and I think there's a beautiful energy about boys as well. But first published in the 90s, Raising Boys was really the first book to acknowledge that boys need their own style of special care. It was a really fresh take that parents of boys absolutely devoured. That's right, Joe. And the book's author, Steve Biddulph, encouraged us to spend time with our sons, play rough and tumble games, teach them to respect women and honour their sensitive side, all principles which hold up today. The world has changed a lot since you first wrote Raising Boys in 1997, and the role of masculinity is changing. Do you see the same principles applying now, or is there a whole different set of issues that boys have got to deal with in 2021?
Well, once, long ago, I was in a room with 200 women. Felt like having a bit of fun, and I said, design a perfect man for me. What would he look like? What would he be like? And when we boiled it down, it all came down to two things, and that was backbone and heart. And what they meant by backbone was being trustworthy, being reliable. They wanted someone they could count on. And then the other was heart. So they are also saying we want tenderness and kindness and someone you can feel close to and the kids can feel close to. And so it's as simple as that. And I think that's been the case for millions of years. That's what masculinity is supposed to be about.
Steve, is there one crucial thing that we miss in raising boys?
I think there has been for about 100 years because of wars and because of terrible, the 20th century was terrible. Men either weren't around or they were emotionally knocked out of action by trauma. So they were very shut down. And so getting men to be around boys and also to be more open-hearted with them is the secret. And this is why your generation of dads are so much better, because we've come out of that nightmare and we know dads can be around little children. We can push strollers. We can go to the park. That actually didn't happen in my dad's generation. So having men in boys' lives makes all the difference.
Is there a mistake that you see, that parents tend to make, particularly around raising boys?
I think there's a danger in raising boys, but also, in fact, all children. And what it is having a fixed idea of what your child is supposed to be like or what they're supposed to turn out like. For instance, high testosterone boys have trouble with reading. And so you have to work to help them to be able to use words and talk and spend more time helping them to be a communicator. But you might have a boy who's very gentle and he might need a bit of help to stick his jaw out and use a loud voice sometimes. But at the same time, that's another way to be male. And if you have a parent who thinks there's only one way to be male, which they used to often do, that's a problem. So regard each child as a unique person that you have to get to know. And then they'll feel like they're interesting and worthwhile to you, whoever they are, and that'll make it all the difference.
Steve, one of the ideas that's really resonated with me is the idea of outside role models for our kids. What do you think about that?
Yes, one of the most practical things you can do if you've got a mid-teen child, boy or girl, but especially I think with boys, is about 14, boys have this thing that they just don't want to be like dad. And they love you, but they just think you're terrible. But they still need role models. So, go away with a bunch of guys and their sons. And your son will end up talking to someone else's dad, one of your mates or his uncle or someone, and get some really good guidance or affirmation. And he'll start to put together his manhood by borrowing from all the best men that he knows. And so by having, artistic men, sporting men, and really kind of scientific men, and men who are gentle, and men who are gay, and every possible different races, every possibility, then your son can think, I like that about him, and I like that about him.
I wanted to ask you about the world now of the iPhone, social media that our kids grow up in. It's something as parents we're all navigating with some challenge. How do you view that world?
Social media, Luke, is especially toxic for girls. Now, the reason for this is that girls are wired up somewhat differently to be much more aware of social cues and of noticing people's feelings around them. And that's a really good quality. But it was designed for when we were a hunter-gatherer and we lived in a little clan of 20 people. And what social media does is it brings several thousand uncaring strangers sometimes into your bedroom. And so it sets off, that wonderful radar that girls are programmed with into absolute alarm. And it's just a terrible sort of toxic overload. There's a very simple step, which people on my Facebook community have all been doing in the last couple of years now, which is at the start of tea time, at the start of dinner time, everyone puts everything on the charger in the kitchen. Nobody goes near them for the rest of the night. That's mum and dad too, which is tough. What people who do that say is their daughter has a good night's sleep for the first time in months. She's cheerful in the morning. She's keen to go to school instead of scared to go to school. And so we've provided a haven. When we were kids, home was a haven from our friends and the rough and tough horribleness sometimes of the playground. And so we've got to put that back.
What would you describe as the key to a happy family?
That's easy, and it's time. And there's a thing that if I could write it on the sky, if I could hire one of those planes and write it on the sky, it would be that hurry is the enemy of love. And that of course we love each other in the family, but when we're rushed, we lose it. And so if you can slow down anything at all in your life, it will improve the love in your family and things will go better. We couldn't finish on a better note than that.
Steve has written 8 books, including several with his wife, but Raising Boys has been updated and re-released, and his new book, Fully Human, is also available right now, Joe, and it looks fantastic.
Coming up, we bring comfort and cures for some common winter ailments. But first, as we all do our small bit for Plastic-Free July, here's how a young Queenslander turned her love of the ocean into a fully fledged movement.
I think the moment that inspired me, that just made me click, was probably when I saw a video of a turtle with like a straw stuck up its nose, because at that time I loved everything about turtles. I had painted my room green, I had turtle everything, and when I saw that I was like, no, 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 and that was definitely like the straw that broke the camel's back.
Molly Steer had her environmental epiphany at age 9. Even though she hadn't hit double digits, she was determined to take action.
The easiest way to start anything is to start small. So I thought, straws are really small. And then after doing a lot of research, I found out that they are actually not like small. They're a really huge problem.
Humans are using so many straws, you could line them up end to end and they'd wrap around the planet 4 times. That's every single day. Even a tiny percentage of those ending up in our oceans is a major environmental disaster.
Hi, my name's Molly Steer and I'm 9 years old, and I've just found out that straws really do suck.
So Molly started a campaign called Straw No More. She spoke to the local council, she got invited to do a TEDx talk, and then she started asking people directly to say no to plastic straws.
We started getting schools on board at first, and then it became businesses and then cafes, and now it's just individuals and everybody.
Molly is now 12 and her crusade against straws has extended to all single-use plastics.
The weird thing about this is they say it's like biodegradable, but instead of breaking down, it breaks up into smaller pieces, and that just... In 2018, I won Cairns Regional Council Young Woman of the Year, and when I was saying my thank you speech, I called out Bob Manning, the Mayor of Cairns, and I said, would you like to join the Straw No More pledge? And he said, okay, yeah.
Cairns became the first council in Australia to ban single-use plastics. Then Queensland jumped on board. Finally, Molly took the fight to the federal level.
In March, I went to Parliament House to speak to Scott Morrison and ask him if he wanted to join the Straw No More project. And he said yeah, and now I'm looking to get like all of Australia on.
What we've got here. Globally, out of all the things that we use every day, that humans use every day, about 91% of it only gets used once. And so if you think about that in the context of your life, you know, it's all the plastic used, whether it be straws, cups, it doesn't break down for hundreds of years at best, right? So important to stop it. Also important to not use stuff that's only used once. How many people do you reckon you've reached so far?
Probably over 1 million.
You might know Andy Ridley as the guy who started Earth Hour. He runs Citizens of the Great Barrier Reef, which partnered with Straw No More early on.
She's incredibly inspirational kid. I think as soon as I met her, she inspired me anyway, and she inspired the team. She's really triggered something in people. We hope that actually the kick-on effect from Straws No More is people start to think much more about everything they're using. And I think that's what happens, you know. The straw is the gateway issue into thinking about how you can make less waste.
People like Andy and Molly are working tirelessly to save the reef. But thanks to a changing culture, they're not alone.
When I turn on the radio or like the news or something, you can't go 30 seconds without hearing the word climate change or like something like that. Whereas like 3 or 4 years ago, it wasn't like that at all. People are more aware and they're realising and they're saying, okay, everybody needs to help and stuff. And I think that's great.
It's incredible progress, but Molly isn't slowing down anytime soon.
My long-term goal for Straw No More is that everybody in Australia stops using single-use plastics.
Do you think that's achievable?
I think so. If we work together, we can definitely get it.
Well, Joe, like most things, the pandemic and lockdowns have seen a massive shift in the way we learn. Schools and unis have been forced to shut and find ways to teach remotely.
And that's been especially tough for our student doctors who need to rack up a certain amount of hands-on and face-to-face clinical experience to graduate.
It's no surprise that our best and brightest minds are coming up with innovative solutions. At the University of South Australia, podiatry students are using lifelike 3D printed feet to practice their skills from the comfort of home.
The feet come complete with calluses, corns and fake toenails, and I don't know why, but that freaks me out a bit. Most importantly, they let Uni of South Australia students get their required 1,000 hours of practical experience and keep studying no matter what's happening outside.
From bad hygiene to impractical shoes, there are plenty of factors out there that can cause our feet a ton of issues. But for about 1 in 20 of us, one of the most serious factors is diabetes.
Diabetes affects your blood flow and your nerve function. So unfortunately, people will injure their foot, not necessarily be aware of it because their nerves aren't working, and that means that they don't even limp on that foot and offload that injury. And so little holes in the skin can become bigger holes in the skin and then fester. On the other side, they also have trouble with their blood flow, so their healing rate is far less than what it can be for people without diabetes. So if you put the two together, an unfortunate side effect is that you end up with an ulceration, very slow in healing and very, very likely to get infected.
With rates of diabetes in Australia rapidly increasing, the number of amputations performed on ulcerated feet has risen by 30% in just 10 years. But podiatrist and uni lecturer Dr. Helen Banwell says most amputations could be avoided with best practice treatment.
Podiatrists really play a part in diabetic-related foot disease and foot ulcers because they can debride or pare away or cut away that non-viable dead skin and bring it back to normal tissue and allow it to heal better. So what we thought was a few years ago, we sort of sat and thought, how can we improve our teaching on this? And 3D printing was sort of proposed as a potentially good idea.
To help her students get more hands-on experience before treating real patients, Dr. Banwell has spent 4 years working with researchers at the University of South Australia to develop realistic 3D foot models.
So we've got two models of foot model that we've ended up with. One is a more robust version printed out of PLA material, and we use the more robust one to teach the second year students who haven't ever used a scalpel before. Whereas as they get more proficient and more experienced, we move on to our Ninja Flex models that actually move and mimic the foot far greater than what the plastic ones do. So about 2019, we finally got our models to the point where we were quite happy with them. And then we had to start on how do we create a foot ulcer. I didn't realise you could buy commercial grade body ooze, but you can. And we put that in the wound and then surround it with a standard icing mix, a frosting mix to mimic pus, which is not particularly pleasant, but it does the job amazingly. And then the whole wound is covered in a flexible resin that mimics the skin.
By working with lifelike replicas of ulcerated feet, Adelaide's next generation of podiatrists are spending hours fine-tuning skills that could prevent hundreds of amputations each year.
And using long sweeping strokes.
There is a satisfaction to it, especially when there's that debriding and getting all of it off, making sure it's nice and clean. You really have to do it hands-on to really get a feel for just how well you're doing it and if you're doing it correctly and how quick you're able to do it as well.
Good job. We've actually measured what these models have done to their anxiety and their confidence, and it's been really amazing. So having access to a foot model gives them up to about 40% more confidence in their ability to debride a foot ulcer and reduces their anxiety by about the same amount.
It's not like in class, say, you know, this week we're learning about ulcers and we can just have someone with an ulcer come in for every single person and we can all debride. Like, this is as real as it's going to get without it being a real patient. And I think it's really good that when we do see someone with an ulcer, we can think back to what we did here and apply it.
Joe, the whole concept of 3D printing just does my head in. I've been creating a model with thousands of layers of material. I still can't quite get my head around how that works.
It is absolutely amazing. Have you seen the 3D printed house? It was built in just 2 days. A couple in Holland are living in one. And it's really nothing you can't replicate, right? You know, they've created the first artificial mouse ovaries using a 3D printer. I mean, the difference that will make to women if that becomes a thing. What about food? What about, you know, 3D printed meat, Darc? Would you eat that?
Well, maybe. Maybe we have no choice down the track. I just find it fascinating, as you said, that everything that can be created is an option now with a 3D printer. Unbelievable to think where that ends up.
Yes, 3D printed bones, 3D printed robots, 3D printed printers. Could they do that? A 3D printed printer?
Now you are doing my head in. Welcome back. As the days get shorter and the temperature drops, we tend to hibernate Joe inside, be a bit less active. And personally, I have to say, I'm not sure whether it's the lockdown in Melbourne, but I've been eating more than I've ever eaten, I think.
Oh, how many times can you go to the fridge? How many times in an hour even? And you go and you're like, there's still not more stuff in there, but I'll just have a check, just in case. But winter is beautiful, but it's also bitter and it brings on a host of skin, chest and congestion complaints that can make you feel miserable. It's best, if you can, to sleep well, eat the right foods and try to stay active by getting at least a 30-minute workout each day. But don't just take it from me. When it comes to curing winter ailments, Gerald Quigley always keeps his cool.
It's been a really chilly winter and I've had lots of inquiries about chilblains. The chilblains occur because of capillary damage caused by changes of temperature. And this causes intense itching, particularly in parts like toes, and fingers, earlobes and even your nose. So avoiding sudden changes in temperature is always wise. You can take ginkgo biloba as a herb to help peripheral circulation, and you can apply arnica cream for local problems, particularly if they're fingers and toes that are worrying you. And an important hint, go and buy some really thick socks. Nobody likes a headache, and migraines are even more of a pain. Migraines are different. They're often associated with flashing lights, nausea, vomiting, dizziness. And often there is a trigger involved. It could be hormonal, could be a certain type of food, could be stress. And it's really important to try and identify what that trigger might be. Feverfew is an important herb in migraine prevention. And if it's a hormonal-related issue, use the herb called Vitex. And finally, I get lots of questions about reflux. This is the pain and discomfort you feel when acidic tummy contents come up and burn your esophagus. Slippery elm in capsule or powder form will coat those sensitive areas very effectively, and there are powdered forms of enzymes to ensure efficient digestion. Another thought is to shift your main meal at dinner back to lunchtime and have a smaller meal at night. And of course, if your symptoms persist, please ask your healthcare practitioner. They have lots of good advice. But most importantly, be well, live well, stay well.
Winter is the time to pay special attention to our immune health. Colds, flu and gastro run rife this time of year. Plus, the cold weather also plays havoc with your skin, maybe drying out a bit with artificial heating and hot showers. We live in the age of knowledge, and a little knowledge about what you can do to get that healthy edge goes a long way.
I can't wait to get inside and warm up. It's Melbourne winter out today. Get me inside. I know. Oh my God. There are so many amazing things about winter though. Sitting at the fire, watching a movie night, being cosy inside.
And the winter fashion, you know, I love the layering, the coats, the boots. It's so much fun.
So many good things about winter. But on the flip side, it comes with the sniffles and the coughs, and it wreaks havoc on my skin, going from out in the cold to in the heat. It really dries it out. There's just a lot going on.
Oh, and look, as your manager and your friend, I know you have a huge couple of months coming up. So it's really important you take care of that immune system and that skin.
And that all starts with gut health.
The gut is termed the gastrointestinal tract, which is a really large, important organ. And in naturopathic philosophy, we actually see it as the health, the seat of your health. So feeding and looking after and providing nutrition to the microbes within your body means that you're supporting your overall health and well-being. Outside of diet and lifestyle, there are some things you can take that are beneficial for your gut, such as liquid probiotics. A probiotic liquid is really beneficial for your overall health because it's boosting all the good bacteria in your gut, which means you'll have advantages on glowing skin and better immune health and digestive health.
So Jen, I've selected 2 of the Henry Bloom's biofermented probiotic liquids for us to not only help me get through winter, but also you.
I love this because at its core, it's really helping create that environment of good bacteria, as well as combating all that nasty bacteria as well, but also adding a bit of extra beneficial health ingredients, depending on what you want to focus on.
And all of the probiotic liquids are actually formulated using 6 strains of probiotics, using a unique biofermentation process called Multiply Plus, which basically means it's more readily absorbed to support a healthy microflora and also just keep us healthy and well.
All right, so which one have you given me?
I've given you the biofermented marine collagen with maqui, acai, goji berry and blueberry concentrate.
Marine collagen assists your skin throughout winter because often we're exposed to harsher, drier climates, and collagen actually works to hydrate the skin, plump the skin, give your skin that glowing look. So it's great to take all year round, but it's also particularly good to take through the winter months. So supplementing with a collagen, particularly a liquid type collagen and a marine peptide, you're boosting and repleting the stores that are getting lost as you age.
And while you've got the combo of antioxidant superfoods and gut-loving probiotics, I'm focusing on keeping colds and flus at bay with the biofermented olive leaf extract for keeping up immunity defence.
The combination of olive leaf and a probiotic liquid is quite a good formulation because you're getting the benefit of good bacteria in your gut, which has immune assistance there, as well as combining with olive leaf, you're also getting the immune support there. 70% of our immune system is actually made in our gut. So by feeding the gut, looking after the gut, creating diversity within the gut bacteria, you're having a really positive effect on the immune system.
And cheers to that.
Cheers.
That's the stuff.
Well, now that we're protected from the winter elements, should we head back out there?
Oh, I don't know if anything can protect us from that wind, but at least we'll go out there with a strong immune system, glowing skin and a healthy gut in the process.
I love it. Let's go.
Let's go. True.
Yeah.
But protect you from these elements. I feel like we need to
It's the only way to keep warm, you're right. We all need a hood.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't have any, beanie. What do I do?
I know, it's because you don't want to put your hair.
Hi, I'm Jade Kisnorbo and welcome to my world of beauty. From the latest trends in skincare and makeup to creating a look that's just right for you, I've got the tips and tricks to make you look and feel great from the inside out. So Sarah, being in the beauty industry, I've been very spoiled and very lucky having access to pretty much all beauty tools. And to pick one would be like picking the favourite child. But I'm gonna pick one. I can't live without concealer.
Oh my gosh, I'm exactly the same. I feel like it really erases those dark circles under your eyes. It can perfect your complexion and like little imperfections like pimples, but it also just brightens your whole face.
100%. And I've been trialling the Revlon Colour Stay Skin Awaken 24-hour concealer, and it really does everything that you just mentioned.
Well, that's really good timing because I've actually got some designer bags going on for you to work with.
Oh, no concealer on today?
Nothing.
Well, that's going to change. Formulated with vitamin C and caffeine, the Revlon Colour Stay 24-hour Skin Awaken concealer is really unique. In addition to being a great concealer, it has the skincare properties, so it helps in really encapsulating 2 steps in one. Sarah, I've chosen for you shade medium, 040. And what's great about picking your right shade for under your eye is you want it to almost be a little bit lighter than your foundation, but melt into your foundation too. So what I like to do is with the sponge, just lightly in dot motions under your eye and outer side of your eye, apply it. And then you can either use the sponge and dab it in or use the warmth of your fingers or a brush just to get that beautiful clean line.
Amazing. And I love that it lasts for 24 hours as well, because I feel like during the day, especially in a long working day, when you're running from, activity to activity, those dark circles could get really quite deep. So I love that it erases those.
Well, the thing with concealer is you only want to really apply it once, because if you keep applying it, it's going to get cakier and drier. And I think the fact that it's got the vitamin C in it, it basically gives you that extra boost, which we really need, especially under the eye. And there you are, all done.
Oh my gosh, I'm like a new woman. It's like I've had 8 actual hours of sleep.
Exactly. So, I mean, how can concealer not be your number one?
Okay, but speaking of number one, husband or concealer?
Concealer.
That was fast.
Yes.
How good is a toastie, Joe? The big favourite at the moment is the multi-cheese toastie that has many different layers of cheeses.
It's just cheese and cheese and cheese.
Just a cheese toastie.
I love it. There are so many connoisseurs and experts on how to make and what should go in the perfect toastie. And, it comes down to the kind of bread as well. There's a big debate about that. What bread would give you the best result?
No way I would have got through boarding school, Joe, without the jaffle iron, the old spaghetti jaffle.
Oh,
you could
yes,
put anything in that jaffle iron. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and you bite into it and it's like lava. It's the hottest thing on the planet. Somehow we always come around to talking about food, Darc. But the pandemic has a lot to answer for. We've mentioned already some big things that were forced to change, like education. But the pandemic's also had a big impact on how much and what we cook and eat at home.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. We've certainly been eating out less and cooking at home more. And researchers say that this has seen confidence in the kitchen go up, with people getting a bit more adventurous, new dishes and some new flavours.
People are also organising their food a lot better by planning ahead and keeping cooking basics like rice and tinned tomatoes always in stock at home. In the US, 70% of consumers in a research study said they'll continue to cook at home after the pandemic ends. But we're always hungry for fresh ideas. I know I am. I loathe cooking. So here's Hinsey and Zoe with some DIY dinner inspiration.
Welcome back to the House of Wellness kitchen, where I am joined by my sous chef, Zoe, where nothing is off limits. We are delving into an adventure. We're talking bones, muscles, all of those vital components for movement.
And keeping moving and active is so important when it comes to your mental and physical health. Now, you mentioned bone and you mentioned muscle. Now, let me tell you a couple of key nutrients that they need to keep them healthy. Vitamin D, vitamin K2, calcium and magnesium.
We rely on all of those, but one of my favourites is actually vitamin D. Now, that is actually contained in salmon, which is going to make up my crispy skin satay salmon with a crunchy cucumber salad. I just got to get the salmon in the oven.
Lucky Hinsey, because very few foods naturally contain vitamin D. Us humans mostly get it when our skin is exposed to sunlight.
Which, Zoe, is why it's called the sunshine vitamin.
I also like to think of it as the bone vitamin, as it naturally helps our body absorb calcium and increase its intake. Calcium helps to support bone strength and bone density, but it's vitamin K2 which helps with bone metabolisation.
And with bone health peaking in our 30s, Zoe, it is always a good time to be looking after our bone health. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm obsessed, but I want to harp on about the salmon for a second here. Now, not only does salmon contain vitamin D for bone health, it is actually loaded with magnesium, which supports your muscle health.
There's a reason why we call it the mighty mineral. It helps to regulate contractions and relax muscles. So if you've got cramps or spasms or simply muscle aches, you could actually be deficient in magnesium.
Tell you what, that doesn't sound fun at all. But 1 in 3 Aussies are actually deficient in magnesium, which blows my mind a little bit because it is found in so many different foods, including one of my favourites, dark chocolate.
Which is why it's great that magnesium and other bone-loving nutrients can also come in supplement form.
Zoe, I don't know about you, but all this talk of movement and exercise has got me craving a bit of a workout. So what do you say we put our muscles and bones to the test and get into some star jumps?
Hinsey, you just simply go ahead and do that with all this yummy talk of this salmon dish. I just want to eat it.
All right, as long as we can share. The A to Z of Vitamins is brought to you by Ostalin, Australia's #1 bone health brand.
Welcome back, where we started the show, Joe, by talking about appreciating the small things and our amazing planet. So have a look at this image. A French astronaut shared this picture of Uluru from space. It's incredible. Thomas Pesquet captured the Australian landmark from on board the International Space Station, and the ISS commander described the scenes of Uluru on his second space mission as simply awe-inspiring.
Oh, it is absolutely beautiful, and it just shows how sacred and special that space is in Australia, because it can be so powerful even from space.
Joe, I read once that anyone who's had the privilege of being in space and looking back at the curvature of the Earth, it's a life-changing thing to actually see the Earth from space looking backwards, and not surprised that that image is capturing so much attention. That's it for today. Head to our website to catch up on anything we've covered today, Joe.
Remember to tune in to hear me and Gerald Quigley every Sunday on the House of Wellness radio show.
And thanks, as always, to our very good friends at Chemist Warehouse. Until next time, stay safe and keep well.